He didn't die from a heart attack, or cancer, or stroke. He died sitting quietly in his favorite chair with the TV still on his robe, still open, and his body already failing from the inside out. The coroner called it natural causes. But it wasn't natural at all. It was slow, silent hormonal collapse, a death that started years before the moment he stopped touching himself. Sounds dramatic. It's not. It's biology. And it's happening to thousands of men over 60 right now. If you're one of the many who believe that giving up masturbation is a sign of maturity, self-control, or even virtue, you could be setting yourself up for irreversible damage. I'm Dr. Edward Blake, a board-certified urologist with over 40 years treating aging men. And in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 dangerous consequences of quitting masturbation in later life and how to stop the damage before it's too late. No shame, no fluff, just truth. If you care about your energy, your prostate, your manhood, stay with me. What you're about to hear could save your health, and maybe even your life. You probably thought stopping was the mature thing to do. After all, society told you that past a certain age, intimacy becomes irrelevant, childish even. Something to be ashamed of. Something to leave behind. But here's the truth that no one ever told you. When you stop masturbating in your 60s or 70s, your body doesn't go quiet. It begins to shut down. Quietly, systematically, permanently. I've seen it too many times. A man walks into my clinic, tired, withdrawn, confused. He hasn't had a spontaneous erection in months. His energy is gone. His mood is flat. He tells me, "Doc, I just don't feel like myself anymore." And when I ask when it started, it always traces back to one decision: he stopped touching himself. You see, masturbation isn't just about pleasure. At this stage of life, it's about preservation. Your penis is not just an ornament, it's a living, functional organ that needs blood flow and oxygen. Just like your heart, your muscles, your brain. When you stop all stimulation, especially after 60-something, dangerous begins to happen. Blood flow slows tissues, begin to stiffen, and nerve signals start to die off. This leads to a condition called penile fibrosis. It's a permanent loss of elasticity and erectile capacity. In plain English, your penis stops working, and you might not even notice until it's too late. One day morning, wood disappears. Then arousal doesn't lead to any reaction. Even with pills, nothing happens. Why? Because you didn't use it and now you're losing it. But that's just the beginning. Stopping masturbation also tanks your testosterone. And no, that's not just a hormone about sex drive. It regulates mood, energy, motivation, muscle mass, and even heart health. When you go months without any sexual activity, your brain reads that as a signal. We don't need testosterone anymore. So it slows production. Your testicles respond by scaling back. Dopamine drops, cortisol rises. And the result? You start waking up tired. You skip your walks. You feel more irritable. You withdraw from your family. You lose interest in everything that once made you feel like you. I had one patient, a retired firefighter, who told me, "Doc, I look in the mirror and I don't know who I am anymore." It broke my heart. Not because he was sick, but because it was preventable. All of it. With just a little regular, respectful attention to this one part of your health, your sexuality, you could avoid this hormonal crash. You could preserve your erections, your confidence, and your identity. And if that wasn't enough, let's talk about the prostate. When you stop ejaculating your prostate, a gland designed to produce and store fluid gets congested. That fluid sits, it thickens, inflammation builds. You start peeing more at night. You feel pressure in your lower back. You get diagnosed with prostatitis or worse. Some studies even suggest that long-term stagnation of the prostate may increase your risk of prostate cancer. Yes, really. And all of this from simply believing that touching yourself is something to be ashamed of. So let's be clear, this isn't about indulgence, it's about maintenance. You brush your teeth to keep them from falling out. You walk to keep your legs from going stiff. You stimulate your body to remind it that life isn't over. Because the moment you stop, your body begins to believe it's done living. Don't let silence steal your strength. Don't let shame rob your vitality. If you're over 60 and you're watching this right now, hear me. Masturbation isn't dirty. It's necessary. Your health depends on it. Let's pause for a moment. What if I told you that the slow collapse you've been warned about, losing your erections, your energy, your identity, doesn't have to happen? What if I told you that what's been sold to you as just getting old is actually a preventable breakdown? One that isn't inevitable, but avoidable. Because here's the truth, no one shouts from the rooftops, "This isn't fate." It's not biology's punishment for reaching your golden years. It's the result of silence, of stigma, of decades of misinformation that taught men to ignore, suppress and shame the very functions that keep us alive. And the most tragic part, so many men only find this out when it's too late. I've looked into the eyes of veterans, teachers, pastors, grandfathers, men who lived full, powerful lives and seen them whisper, "I didn't know this would happen." They thought stopping masturbation was the right thing to do, something dignified, something responsible. But they were never told what happens when you stop nourishing your sexual health. Your prostate becomes congested, your testosterone crashes, your circulation declines, and your emotional fire, that inner sense of joy, purpose, and confidence, starts flickering out. But here's the game changer. This decline is not permanent, and more importantly, it never had to happen in the first place. The male body, even in its 60s, 70s, and beyond, responds to care. It craves movement. It heals when supported. You don't have to accept the narrative that tells you aging means fading, because the science says otherwise. Studies have shown that regular sexual activity, even in the form of masturbation, just once or twice a week, can improve blood flow to the penis and reduce risk of fibrosis, stimulate natural testosterone production without drugs, reduce inflammation in the prostate by flushing built-up fluids, lower the risk of prostate cancer through regular ejaculation, boost dopamine and oxytocin levels, restoring emotional vitality. In other words, your body wants to stay alive. You just have to give it permission. Let's be clear, we're not talking about indulgence or addiction. This isn't about lust. It's about maintenance, like brushing your teeth or walking every day. It's a practice of self-respect, not shame. You are not too old to feel. You are not too old to function. And you are definitely not too old to matter. One of my patients, 72 years old, came to me after feeling emotionally and physically shut off for almost a year. He hadn't touched himself in months, not out of medical advice, but out of guilt. After a single conversation, we worked on a new routine that included respectful weekly self-intimacy, no porn, no pressure, just connection. Within a month, he reported better sleep, better mood, and the return of his morning erections. His words, "I feel like I turned the lights back on inside." That's the power of choosing yourself, of refusing to fade quietly into the background. This isn't magic, it's biology. You don't need expensive treatments. You don't need complicated routines. What you need is permission to take care of the part of you that the world told you to ignore. So here's your permission. This decline is not your destiny. It's a message, a wake-up call, a chance to rewrite your future. And if you're still here, still reading, still listening, then it means you haven't given up. You still want to feel strong. You still want to protect your health. You still care. That's your power. Use it. Let's clear the air right now. Because I know what some of you are thinking. I'm too old for this. This sounds inappropriate. Why would a man in his 60s or 70s care about sex? But hear me loud and clear. This is not about sex. This is not about lust. This is about your health. And it always has been. For decades, society told men to repress their urges. That self-pleasure was shameful, selfish, juvenile. That it was something to grow out of like acne or video games. But what if I told you that belief system is quietly damaging your body? What if I told you that abstaining from all sexual activity isn't a sign of discipline, but a hidden threat to your prostate, your hormones, and your emotional well-being? You see, your body doesn't know about shame. Your prostate doesn't understand morality. Your circulatory system doesn't care if you're religious or reserved or no longer dating. Your body only understands function. And when you stop using a vital system, any system, it begins to weaken, then fail. Just like muscles shrink when not exercised, your sexual health deteriorates when ignored. Let's break it down clearly. Your prostate is an active gland, not a passive one. It produces seminal fluid, and that fluid is meant to move. When it sits stagnant for too long, especially in later years, inflammation builds. Pressure increases. Discomfort begins. Your testosterone levels are tied to stimulation. When you completely stop sexual activity, your brain stops signaling the testicles to produce testosterone. That hormone crash doesn't just affect your libido, it affects your strength, energy, mood, and even heart health. Your mental health is biologically wired to respond to pleasure. Dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, these are not just feel-good chemicals. They regulate mood, reduce anxiety, improve memory, and protect against cognitive decline. Now tell me again, is this about lust, or is this about keeping your body functioning the way it was meant to function? I've had men cry in my office not because they miss sex, but because they miss feeling alive. They miss the part of themselves that used to feel joy, motivation, connection. One man in his late 60s, recently widowed, said it best, "I wasn't chasing fantasy. I just wanted to feel like a man again, like I mattered." That broke my heart. But it also proved something important. What we've labeled as inappropriate is often deeply human. It's not about dirty thoughts or wild cravings. It's about the quiet rituals that help us stay grounded, energized, and emotionally whole. You brush your teeth to prevent decay. You stretch your joints to stay mobile. You eat right to avoid disease. So why wouldn't you maintain your sexual health to protect your prostate, your hormones, and your mind? This isn't indulgence, it's maintenance. And don't let anyone shame you for wanting to stay healthy. If someone told you walking every day after age 60 was unnecessary or immature, would you stop? Of course not. You'd say, "I'm keeping my legs strong so I can live the life I want." Same principle here. You're not trying to relive your 20s, you're trying to preserve your dignity, your vitality, and your health. And if that means engaging in respectful, regular self-care, even once or twice a week, then so be it. You're not hurting anyone. You're helping yourself. So let's bury the shame. Let's silence the voices that told you this part of your life was over. Because it's not. And if you've ever felt conflicted, isolated, or uncertain about this topic, let this be your wake-up call. You're not doing something wrong. You're doing something necessary. This is not about lust. This is about life. You'd be surprised how many men are silently suffering. Not from illness, not from injury, but from a slow, invisible unraveling that almost no one is talking about. A man in his late 60s starts waking up 2 or 3 times a night, rushing to the bathroom frustrated and confused. Another begins to feel a strange dull pressure in his pelvis or an ache in his lower back that won't quite go away. One day, someone realizes it's been months since they've had a morning erection, and they can't remember the last time they felt like themselves. They brush it off. It's just age, they say. It's normal. It's nothing serious. But here's the hard truth. What's common isn't always harmless. And what's worst, almost no one is talking about it. You won't hear it in casual conversation. You won't see it on the evening news. Even many doctors skip right over it, partly out of discomfort, partly because they don't think patients will want to hear the truth. But behind closed doors in exam rooms and quiet, late-night moments, men are asking the same questions. Why do I feel so tired all the time? Why is my prostate acting up when I thought it was under control? Why do I feel like I'm disappearing? These aren't random problems. They're patterns. And in many cases, they're directly tied to one choice men are told to feel ashamed of even discussing stopping sexual activity completely. Because when a man completely gives up self-pleasure, especially after 60 things begin to shift, prostate congestion builds. Testosterone drops. Erectile tissue weakens. Emotional numbness creeps in. And yet few ever make the connection. They go years thinking it's just part of aging, when, in reality, it's neglect. Not because they're lazy, but because no one ever gave them permission to ask, is this really normal? That's why this conversation matters. Because you are not alone, and you are not broken. You're just finally hearing the truth that should have been shared decades ago. The consequences may be common, but they're not inevitable. And starting today, you can take control. It only takes one honest conversation to change everything. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. A man walks into my office, quiet, polite, carrying decades of responsibility on his shoulders. He's not the kind to complain, but today something's different. His energy is low, his eyes are tired. His voice, almost embarrassed, says, "Doc, I don't feel like myself anymore." He thinks it's just aging, but it's not. It's misunderstanding, misinformation, silence. Because for years, no one ever told him that stopping all sexual activity after a certain age doesn't just put things on pause. It puts his health in danger. No one taught him that the body needs stimulation to maintain circulation, hormone balance, and prostate function. No one explained that testosterone doesn't crash just because of birthdays, but because of neglect. And no one ever gave him permission to ask the question, what if everything I thought was shameful was actually essential? That's why this message matters, because education doesn't just inform, it rescues. It gives a man back his agency, his options, his health. You see, men aren't breaking down because they're weak. They're breaking down because they were never told the rules changed after 60. They were never taught that regular, respectful self-stimulation, even just once or twice a week, can keep the prostate healthy, keep testosterone levels stable, and protect their emotional well-being. They were never told that withdrawal and silence are not noble, they're dangerous. But here's the good news. The second you learn the truth, the game changes. Knowledge doesn't just sit in your head. It fuels action. It opens doors to better choices, better habits, better outcomes. And if you're hearing this right now, you already have something most men don't a chance to choose differently. Don't let decades of misinformation dictate the rest of your life. What you know can save you, and it might just save someone else too. So stay curious, stay open, and stay committed to learning because your future depends on it. What if the things you were taught to be ashamed of were the very things keeping you alive? That's the lesson hidden in plain sight. For too long, older men have been told to shut down a part of themselves as if intimacy, pleasure, and self-connection had an expiration date. But science tells a different story. Your body doesn't stop needing care after 60. In fact, it needs more attention, more awareness, more respect. Masturbation isn't about indulgence or immaturity. It's about circulation, hormonal balance, prostate health, and emotional resilience. When ignored, this natural function can lead to silent but devastating consequences: erectile dysfunction, testosterone crash, prostate congestion, and even emotional numbness. And the worst part, most men don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. But it doesn't have to be that way. This isn't about sex, it's about health, about protecting the systems that keep you strong, confident, and independent. Just a few minutes a week of intentional, respectful self-care can help prevent the slow breakdown that so many older men experience in silence. So here's the truth. Your wellness is worth defending. Your body still remembers how to feel. Your health still responds to care. And your vitality is not behind you. It's waiting for your attention. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment below, whether it's a 1 to show you're with us, or a question you've been too afraid to ask. Share this video with a friend who might need to hear it, and save it so you can revisit these truths anytime. And if you're ready for more real, honest conversations about men's health, hit that subscribe button. Your voice matters. Your health matters. Let's build a community where aging doesn't mean silence, it means strength, wisdom, and connection.